praying not for the healing of my heart. I'm not praying for my peace of mind to start. But this prayer of prayers that I now pray is giving thanks to God for being God today.
Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today. Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today.
I used to pray for my friends in need. I asked the Lord just to hear my plea. I prayed once when I lost my hope. I even prayed to God to help me cope. But this prayer of prayers that I now pray is giving thanks to God for being God today.
Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today. Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today. There is a plan for every woman and man. This truth is known from land to land. But still we pray to have things this way, that way, His way, her way, your way, my way. Oh, but God's way is our way. When our way is God's way, then we pray to let God be God in our lives today. Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today. Thank God for being God. Thank God for being God today. There is a plan for every woman and man. This truth is known from land to land. But still we pray to have things this way, that way, His way, her way, your way, my way. Oh, but God's way is our way. When our way is God's way, then we pray to let God be God in our lives today. Oh, but God's way is our way. When our way is God's way, then we pray to let God be God in our lives today. Oh, but God's way is our way. When our way is God's way, then we pray to let God be God in our lives today. Thank God.
But that song was perfect for today. And the closing song is going to be perfect for today. You really, you and God are like... So, I mean, because really, people want it their way, this way, you want it your way. But what about God's way? So how are you doing? Excellent. Okay. How many of you are disturbed? So we got excellent and disturbed. I mean, really, how many of you have been a little disturbed? I mean, like, anywhere from soul-crushing sadness to hellfire anger. How many of you want things to be different? Oh, look at you. Spiritual traditions of any kind don't ask us to pray that God change the world. All spiritual traditions at their essence ask us to pray to change us so that the world may change. I'm really sorry that probably what was underneath the surface for a very long time simmering is starting to come out, and we're seeing the effects of something that I'm going to talk about later. We're seeing the effects of people thinking that they don't belong to each other. And it hurts when we see it. At least it hurts my heart. I think it hurts your heart. The reason it hurts your heart is because you're in touch with your heart. Praise God. Good for you. This is from the Talmud. Do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Do justice now. Love mercy now. Walk humbly now. You are not obligated to complete the work, but neither are you free to abandon it now. We do our part now. I started a few weeks ago, this fall theme, and our fall theme for as long as I can remember, well, that's just because my memory is getting shorter. No. Since I came to the Center for Spiritual Living, I've always talked about this thing about nature and how we can do well. But recently, maybe 8 to 10 years ago, we started calling it thriving. I want us to look at how we can collectively and individually have a thriving life, how the world can thrive, how we can thrive. So each fall we talk about it, and it is the nature of life to thrive. All intelligence of the universe goes into life thriving. All of the intelligence of the universe. The universe is pretty vast. How many would say, yep? In fact, actually, every once in a while, I'll get something that says, you know what, you thought the universe was this big, it's bigger. And I thought the universe was pretty big to begin with. The universe is vast, and the intelligence that regulates the universe is vast. And I am in this universe, and I am in this intelligence, and it is vast. We have vast reservoirs of intelligence. And its purpose is to regulate the flow of energy and matter and what that all creates so that life itself can thrive. Your life individually, if you want to be a part of it, but life on earth will thrive. I think that Buckminster Fuller said, we may blow ourselves off this planet, we'll just go create another one, and then the planet will take over and have a better time. He's a very wise man. So I've shifted a bit of a chant that some of you may have heard me say before, and I want to just say it this way, because I want to look at life thriving, not me thriving, not you thriving, but God thriving through us, not his way or this way or that way, or pick a side or do this or buy this product and sell that product or have that idea, but life thriving, and you're the place that shows up to thrive. That's what I'm all about. So it came to me that I wanted to say this all the time, that there is one life, and that life is a universal life. And that life is perfect, it is orderly, it is balanced, it's harmonious, and it's my life, it's our life, it is the life now. It's the life. That's the way life wants to be. The only thing is that human beings can choose to not be in balance with the rest of everything else. We have free will. Isn't that sweet? And what I noticed a long time ago when I was studying ecology is that life went really well. Systems function perfectly. The brilliance of a system balancing itself out is amazing. And then the only thing that really messes it up usually is humans. Or something coming from the outside that disrupts the balance, and then it takes a long time for it to balance itself out again. And yet life thrives. I'm no longer sorry for the dinosaurs. Because life still thrived. And if you look at a bird walk someday, you go, you know what? They just became smaller and cuter and less willing to eat me. So what I'm thinking about this, just having to be in the world while I'm preparing to serve you, is that I noticed that what I want to talk about, and it'll apply to my life and your life, but it applies to the big life. Because there is one thing that gets in the way of life thriving. It gets in the way of you thriving. And that one thing is the original sin. The original sin. The mother of all sins. The mother of all sins. Now, some of you are going, I thought we didn't talk about that. I thought sin was a bad word. Well, sin just means mistake. There's a big, big, bad mistake going on, and there's the mother of all mistakes going on, and it breeds all sorts of little other sins. Mama sin has baby sins. But mama sin is the belief that I'm separate from everything else. And from that belief, from that sin, all other sins just show up naturally. If you have a belief in separation, then you're going to have a belief in lack, limitation, deprivation, poverty, not enough, not good enough. If I'm not good enough, then they're probably enough, but I don't like them, so they're not enough. And then if they are enough, then I'm not enough. And it's like this way, and that song is perfect. That sin, and that sin, and that sin, and that sin, and we're all going, sinny dipping. It just came to me, and I had to say it. But we do dip into that sin once in a while, don't we? Woo! Okay, look another way. I don't know what came over me. Wayne Dyer wrote a book. I didn't read the book, but I love the title. And it says, there's a spiritual solution to every problem, and there's a spiritual solution to this idea that I'm separate from everything else. I'm separate from you. I'm separate from them. I'm not separate from you because we believe the same way. But I'm separate from those folks that don't believe that way. I'm not separate from the people that I vote with, but I'm certainly separate from those people that don't vote my way. And I'm certainly, do you see how this just is propagated? It's getting worse and worse and worse, and that's ugly. And it gets ugly, and then it erupts. It's like we haven't cleaned our face in a long time, and we get pimples. We haven't cleaned society, our consciousness, in a long time, and there's eruptions, and we go, ooh, look at the eruption. It happened because we haven't been willing to look the sin in the face, and it's called separation. It's not Trouble in River City, and it was a band, I guess. I don't know what it was. Anyway, Pool. It's not Pool. It's separation. So actually, I guess all I want to say from that 2 weeks ago, today, and next week is I want us to start healing that sense of separation, the mother of all sins. And I started out with 4 ideas. I'm going to share them with you because you may not have been here, but I invite you, if you weren't here, to get on our YouTube channel and watch the talk from the first of the month. There's 4 things that you have to be willing to do to heal this sense of separation, from which all the other upsets come. Number 1. Number 1. There it is. You have to be willing to have things be different. I mean, not them be different. You have to be willing to be different. We'd all like them to be different. Is there not a them you wouldn't like to have be different? Anybody got a them you wouldn't like to be different? Like only 2 people have no thems. No thems. But a lot of it's like we want our kids to be different, our parents to be different, our school systems to be different, our country to be different, and especially those people causing the problem. We want them to be different. But only we can change. Are you willing to change? Are you willing? Are you willing to let God be God in you so that God can do an amazing thing through you? Number 2, you need to decide that you're willing to put in the time and effort that it will take for you to change your outlook about the world. It's not going to be easy to shift your consciousness. It's not easy for me to shift my consciousness. I was asked today after the first service how long I've been working at this, and it's 40 years. I've been trying and doing all that I do. Everything I do is towards healing my sense of separation. My sense of separation from my God, from myself. Because how many of you have been fragmented? How many of you have pieces and parts and know it? Just healing the sense of separation from others, from love, and from God being my source of supply. It's taken a while, and I'm getting there, and that's why I can talk about it. And all I can do is share my journey, but I had to be willing to put the time and the effort into it. And it will take time and effort because it took a long time. We've believed in the sense of separation for a long time. How many of you still believe that the year starts in September? I mean, how many of you think, September comes and you go, well, it's another year. It's because it was so ingrained in us because of school. And so I still do this. It took a long time. It's going to take a long time for me to really get that it does start in January. It takes a while for us to reshift, recalibrate our thinking, but we have to be willing to do that. The next thing is, are we willing to contemplate the abundance, the vastness of creation? Because we do contemplate the flaws, the lack, that needs to be fixed. Are we willing to contemplate the intelligence that it takes to keep everything in motion, in perfect motion, to keep this planet so incredibly livable? That's intelligence. Are we contemplating that intelligence? You know what I put on my Facebook page, and like me on Facebook, because I put good stuff on my page. And I am always seeking evidence that Spirit is willing to work through humankind to solve a problem. And there are so many wonderful things happening on the earth, and usually by very young people, finding a solution to a human problem like garbage and pollution, and they're coming up with it all the time. That's intelligence. I want to contemplate that intelligence, not the lack thereof, because I have a tendency to believe in ignorance, usually theirs. Just saying. And that's a sin. I have sinny dipped again. And then the last thing is, am I willing to pray for rich ideas? Because there's never been a problem, there's only been an idea problem. An idea can solve any problem. Are we willing to be the recipients of that idea? Whether it is, how do I send my children to college, or how is it that I become a place of peace on earth? Either one. Right now, in our new offices, I get off at the Northgate exit from the north, and I drive by at least 12 tents in a field. And I'm praying. I don't want to just go give money. I'm praying, how can I serve those people? Because they're in front of me. But I don't want it to be Kathy Ann as handouts. I was like, what would serve these people? And I'm waiting for the download. So it's the right idea for them, because I don't know what the right idea for them is. Does that make sense? So if you see a problem, ask for a download. There is a spiritual solution to any human problem. But we have to ask, we have to be open. Which leads me to the fifth thing in 3 parts. And this fifth thing comes from Ernest Holmes, when he said, prosperity, or thriving, is the outpicturing of universal abundance in our affairs. To have that, we must receive, utilize, and extend the gift. And this sounds a lot like flow, doesn't it? And actually, if you think about it, everything that's healthy is flowing. If you have a problem in your body, there's probably a flow problem. If you have a problem in relationships, there's probably a flow problem. And somebody's not talking to somebody. If you look at the United States, somebody's not talking to somebody. we're not talking to each other. We're not communicating, we're screaming or yelling. It's a flow problem. Any issue is a flow problem. But then you ask yourself, what comes first in this flow? Is it that I give, or is it that I receive? In this flow, is it what happens first? And it's very much a chicken and egg conversation. What comes first, the chicken or the egg? Who knows? But they both better be there. You lose the chickens, you lose the eggs, you lose the eggs, you lose the chickens. So they both better be there. So I want to talk about flow in this whole idea of receiving and having and then giving again, and break it up. But it's a thing. It's a thing. It's not one thing's better than the other thing. The only thing that you might want to focus on is the thing that is the hardest for you. So let's talk about receiving and having and giving again. I did a receiving workshop. I think it was I don't know what it was called, but it was about receiving. And whoa, it was amazing. First of all, people had a hard time knowing the difference between receiving and taking. Now, it was okay to take, like I earned it and I'll take it. It was hard to receive once they knew what receiving was. And here's what receiving is. It's passive. It's not doing. It's willingness. Just even separate your shoulders a little bit. It's willingness. It is being open. If you think about the breath, when you breathe in, you don't breathe in. What you do is you create space in your lungs by extending your abdomen and your diaphragm. The lungs expand and air rushes in. If there was no air, you wouldn't be able to, there wouldn't be anything there. It's always there, but you just create the space for it. What you do actively is push it out. And then you open up and the air comes in. And what I was amazed at when I taught these workshops, and I did it many, many times, is how people did not want to receive. They didn't want to receive. They didn't want to just be open, passive. Now, how many of you I say the word passive and you go, ooh, dirty word. So did they. Receiving was hard. I heard a whole lot of reasons why people did not want to receive, and I read them again just last week in Psychology Today. Psychology Today wrote an article on the 5 reasons it's hard to receive, and all of these I heard while I was teaching that workshop. So I'll just read them to you, see if any of them make you twingy. First one is a defense against intimacy. When you're open, you're intimate. A need to be in control. Now, I'll set it up so that I can take something. We'll do a barter system, but if you're just receiving, you are out of control. A fear of strings being attached. You don't want to appear selfish. And in self-imposed pressure to reciprocate, and you don't want to reciprocate, so you just won't accept. Now, all 5 of those behaviors and those attitudes support the belief in separation. They all support the belief in separation. See, if I just knew that we were a system, and you gave me something, I'd say, I'm getting something through that channel from the system. Now, when I give, I'm part of the system supporting someone else. It's all part of a system. Cells in your body, well, you do not want cells in your body that say, no, I'm not going to share my chemicals with you because you never shared any chemicals with me. And I don't want your chemicals because you're going to want something from me. And I don't deserve to be to be nurtured in such a way. I mean, your body would break down. It's normal. Flow happens. It's great. It's actually the way the universe works. So if someone's giving to you, assume that it's the universe, life, caring for you, as you will be part of life caring for someone else in a different way. It's all part of flow. After receiving, we utilize, which means that you use what you have or you give it to someone else. You enjoy what you have or you give it to someone else. One of our practitioners, she has some of the nicest stuff I've ever seen, and it's not unusual for her to send out pictures of 5 or 6 items that she's willing to give away. And I've been the recipient of that. My house looks better because of her. And I'm really grateful that we got to contribute to 20 other nonprofits when we were moving out of the Sandpoint location. And they benefited from all the things we were giving away. We can't use it, they can. Everybody wins. It would have been awful if nobody had received what we had. We gave, they receive. It's a flow. It's a flow. Now, extending the gift. All life is a gift, and it's the movement of energy. To give is to live, and to live is to give. That's just the way it is. Anything that is living is giving and receiving. The trees give us oxygen. Praise God. I'm so grateful they don't have a union. And they said, you know what? We are standing up against the number of people that want to take down that forest, so we're just not going to give any more oxygen. They have to give. Praise God. And we have to give them carbon dioxide. Praise God. It is all a system. There has to be a giving, to give, to live, to give. It's all one thing. It's all circulation. If you don't breathe out, there will be no intake. And it's all one. It's all one. So we perpetuate the sin of separation when we say we can't give, or we don't have enough to give, or we give as little as possible. If life is only about you, you cut yourself off from the source of all life. If every conversation is what's in it for me, you cut yourself off to the bliss of living. The bliss of living. Because to feel God moving through you is pure bliss. And when I notice that I'm not being happy, I have to ask myself, where am I not giving? Because I'm not knowing the bliss of being used by something greater than myself for a purpose greater than myself. And it could be something large or small, it doesn't matter. Am I willing to listen to this? How many of you have a friend that tells the same story all the time? Am I willing to listen one more time? You know, there's a lot of self-made, quote-unquote, self-made wealthy people, but I don't know how that happens, because we're all standing on the shoulders of people who came before us, and we're all benefiting from what people have done before. But do they know the joy of oneness, love, and contribution? Do they know the joy of doing something through them? Now that's fun. It's pure fun. Joseph Campbell, different Joseph. So now you're going to know which Joseph I like. Joseph Campbell said, money is congealed energy, and releasing it releases life possibilities. So, what do you do? What do you do? See, I've given you theory. And one of the things I loved about science classes is that we had theory and then we had lab work. We'd learn how molecules interacted, and then we'd go into the lab and prove that those molecules interacted that way. And by the way, this is how old I am. We believed in molecules. There are no molecules. There's just a tendency for energy as a nucleus to show up at a certain place, and perhaps the probability of electrons to be with it. I love it. So if molecules aren't real, either is your story. All that stuff you're dealing with is just as made up as a nucleus. It's just made up. But we perpetuate it by looking at it again and again and again and talking about it and sharing it. But let's go to doing. Let's go to the lab. You heard some theory. Now here's lab work. I have some lab work in for you. But first I need to tell you, you'll always know what you really believe by what you do. You'll always know what you really believe by what you do. That's all the spiritual practice you need, is just to look at what you do and ask yourself, what must I believe? You'll know what you really trust by looking at your daily activities and your checking account. You'll know what you really trust. And you can start to change what you believe by consciously switching your actions. What you do reflects your belief, but your doing can affect your belief. So once again, it's a flow. It's all one. It's not belief and doing. It's belief and doing. So I am inviting you to participate with me in upping my belief in oneness and healing my sense of separation. And here's some ways to do it. Based on the theory we just heard, here are some things you can do. First of all, be open to gifts, compliments, money from unplanned places. Be open to receiving. Be open, open. That means be gracious in your receiving. Say thank you and don't deflect. I mean, right after first service, we had deflection going on. Somebody was complimented and I didn't even hear it. How many of you have watched people that you are trying to compliment or support and it goes, whew, whew. And then sometimes, how many of you have noticed that you turn into Wonder Woman with the bracelets? Yeah. And so if people try to give you a compliment, oh, what do you mean this whole thing? It's not a big deal. I've had it a long time. Not really. I don't think so. 1, accept, receive, be gracious about it. Number 2, don't deflect. 3, use what you have or share it with others. And when I say use, I mean enjoy. 4, if your higher wisdom self reveals to you that you are stingy in any place in your life, give more and stretch. Prove to yourself that you have. I have enough love, I have enough income, I have enough substance, I have enough whatever. And I mean stingy, I don't mean, I'm going to ask you to give to this church, so in a way it's kind of about money, but it's also who's stingy with your love. You'd never know that you're stingy with your love. You've watched other people be stingy with their love. But maybe the higher wisdom self would say, you know what, you're being stingy with your love. You're being stingy with your acceptance. You're being stingy with your understanding. You're being stingy with your forgiveness. You're being stingy with your attention. You can also be stingy with your finances. Because I'll tell you, self-worth and net worth are so freaking linked together in our society, it's pitiful. Pitiful. So if we don't think well about ourselves, then we're never going to share our worth. So ask your higher wisdom self, where are you stingy? And then just say, lead me into stretching and becoming more and proving to myself that I have. from Mark. And for those of you that want to look it up later, 4:24 and 25. For whomever has, to him shall be given. Whomever has not, even that shall be taken away. Now that seems harsh, but he's talking about consciousness. If you have a consciousness of I don't have, then you're going to have a consciousness of I don't have. Whether it's ideas or intelligence or solutions or finance, it's like you've got to stretch, you've got to give. You know, I thought about that once. I've been stingy with sharing some of my programs. And I got to get over it because God's going to give me more programs. What's taught in our organization right now has been tweaked and kind of redone a little bit, but basically it's the self-mastery program that I developed here. I shared it with some friends and then they shared it everywhere. And I'm like, that's my program. And I'm like, get over it, Kathy Ann. There is no end to the number of programs that you're going to do. Just get over it. So ask yourself, where can I become a giver? Wherever I am feeling pinched, I need to give. And I need to receive, and I need to appreciate. We do not give to suffer. We give as life gives, which is freely, allowing us to be open to receive. Another thing that I want to share is that my life is good. I have been incredibly blessed, and I really want to give to you guys, and I'm asking for downloads. I don't know what's going to happen, but there's going to be a holy shift. Because I have a hunger. My husband would say I'm on a holy terror. to share whatever spiritual principles it will take and to support you through whatever it takes for you to understand that a universe has your back. And a universe. You're not alone, you can't be alone. That's a lie from the beginning. And God never works in a lie, it always works in truth. You are supported by something amazing. Just allow it to happen. Let's pray. So I just give thanks for this moment, and I speak my word that divine intelligence that we live, move, and have our being in, that divine intelligence is now moving through this group of people. We've come together, and we are opening together to the intelligence of the living Spirit. We are open to receive. We're open to receive inspiration. We're open to receive ideas. We're open to receive insight into the ways that we have held back. We're open to receive insight into how we're showing up in the world so that we can shift how we show up in the world. So that we may be the place where God shows up. We may be the place where mediation happens. We may be the place where the original sin of the sense of separation is healed and made no more. May we be the place where there is an elimination of this idea of lack or limitation or deprivation and going without. May we be the place where love reigns and hate is no more. May we be the place where hearts are healed and souls are renewed. Thank you, sweet Spirit, for bringing us here today that we may receive all that Spirit has to give. May we use it and share it. And may we learn to give freely, to live prosperously. May we thrive. And so it is.
So it is.